All right, so the next part talks about cash and trade discounts. So this is kind of going through the process of trying to figure out what you actually owe, when you owe it, and if you get anything off. Meaning, they're going to put in incentives to actually pay early. Okay, so they're going to give you a time frame, and everybody would have that normal time frame. It's usually like 60 to 90 days. And they would tell you how many days that you would have, but then they're going to give you an incentive to pay within the first 30 days, or pay within the first 60 days, or then it's definitely due on that 90th day. Okay? If you pay within the first 30 days, you might get 5% off. If you pay the next one, you might get 2% off, and so on and so forth. So they're going to give you a little bonus for paying early. Okay? Or maybe they try to have you use cash. So they would rather have you write a check than use like a debit or credit card in some situations, because sometimes that charges them more on the backside. Okay, so if you look at this, we talk about this little invoice on the bottom of page 425. So see where it says remit payment to, and it shows you that, and then it says shipping FOB. Remember the FOB thing?
That's the opposite.
It's the opposite, right? So if it says FOB Fremont, then the people that Farewell Paints would actually pay for, okay? So it says ship to, and basically shows everything. And then down at the bottom, or more like in the middle, see where it says the order number, and then the date entered, the date shipped, the invoice date, and the terms of sales.
Yeah.
That's what we want to concentrate on now. So obviously every single thing that would go through the company would have their own order number, all right? The date entered obviously could be totally different than the date shipped, especially nowadays, right? You think about shipping, could take a couple, maybe even a week later, right? To get things out now, just because of, backed up materials or backed up shipping, meaning your truck service or whatever you're using. So just make sure the date entered and the date shipped don't have to be the same thing. The invoice date is the important one now. That's what we're concentrating on, okay? So when you do this now, the invoice date is when the buyer would have actually received it. So notice in this one right here, it was shipped on 6/7. They didn't get it until 6/10. So their time frame would start on that invoice date. So it would be the 10th of June instead of the 7th when they shipped it out. Okay, so we're talking about the small people again, right? The people that are getting it from those suppliers, like Lammer said yesterday. Okay, so, and then the next part, the term of sales, is the kind of the incentive portion of it. See where it says 2/10, 1/30, and then N/60?
Yeah.
That is your terms of sales, meaning the last thing where it says N/60 is your due date. So basically you have 60 days to pay this. And then if you hit or go over that 60th day, what starts happening?
Fees.
Yeah, they start charging you something, and they call it a service charge maybe, or we'll show you that in just a second, okay? So they're going to say N/whatever, that's your due date. The other two are your incentives. So the first one says that you get 2% off if you pay within the first 10 days. The second one says you get 1% off if you pay within the first 30 days. So then anything after the 30th day to the 60th day is just what your bill would say. Make sense? So they're going to give you a little incentive. Now some people might not be able to do that, just because of what they're going through. So if we go back up though, what should your invoice show you? It should show you all the details that you did, right? So notice you're going to show each a description of whatever you bought, and then what kind of unit it was. A unit means how was it delivered to you. So if we're talking about a lawnmower, your unit might be an actual lawnmower. But if you're talking about light bulbs or something, you might get a whole package of light bulbs instead of individual ones. So that, notice where that says each, and then package. All right? And then it's going to show you how many of each of those you got, so that's your quantity. And then the unit price would be for what?
How much each piece is?
Just one thing, right? So when it says each for the brush, the nylon 2-inch brush was $2.90, and then you got 36 of them, that's how you get your grand total amount. Everybody good with all that? Okay? So you probably won't have to do any of the calculating, meaning trying to figure out what the bill should say. You're going to do the calculating and see what you're going to maybe get off or what you actually would pay. Okay? The biggest part that most people run into in this section is trying to figure out when these days occur. Okay? So this is what I'm talking about. Where do I want to start here? You have to know this part right here. And for whatever reason, a lot of people don't get this right here. So the number of days in each month. Everybody knows how, do you know how to do it or figure it out if you don't know the number? You always start with your high knuckle, right? And when you put them together, they're back-to-back 31s. Okay? But you always start at the edge. High knuckles are how much? 31. Low knuckles are
28 or 30.
usually 30. And then you just have to know that February is the only one that has 28. But the biggest thing is that you go back-to-back. Okay? They're both 31. So what you're going to have to figure out is, what is that due date? And that's, for whatever reason, it's hard for people. Okay? So, let's try this out. Turn the page, 426. Don't look at, put your hand down on the bottom like this so you don't look at the calculation stuff down there. Okay? Underneath example 1. Underneath example 1. Yep, cover it up. So it says the credit terms are 210, 130, and N60. The invoice date is June 10th. Find the last day for taking each cash discount. Okay? So, here's the first thing. When is the last date, or when is your 30 days up? Okay? So, the first thing here's the other thing. Notice right up here. Don't count the invoice date as part of the counting for the discount period. So the next day would be your first date. So June 11th is your first date to get your discount. That makes sense? Okay? So tell me, obviously then, what's my last day that I can get my 2% discount?
June 20th.
June 20th. Exactly right. Okay? What is the last date I can get my 1% discount? So first off, how many days are in June?
30.
30. Okay? So,
July 10th.
July what?
10th.
July 10th. Yeah. Okay? Now, what is my due date?
August 9th.
You're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Did you look at that down there?
Oh.
Okay? Does everybody see how I got those numbers?
That's a lot of counting.
Yeah.
It is.
Sometimes it's 90 days though, and then you got to do even more counting.
I don't do numbers like that.
Okay? So, is everybody good with how we got all those things?
These fools.
Indeed.
Okay? Alright. So, then we talk about, and when they ask you, now this is important for the vocabulary part, okay? They're going to ask you the cash discount. Cash discount is if you would fall into one of those first two categories. So what you figure out is your cash discount, and then obviously we take that and subtract it from our overall bill. Correct? Everybody okay with all that? So cash discount is what you're looking for. Okay, so let's try to do A. Credit terms of 115 and then N/30 appear on an invoice dated November 28th. What are the discount date and the due date of the invoice? So don't say it out loud. Let everybody have a chance. So we're going to start on November 28th. Do we count November 28th?
No.
No. So, how many days after November 28th is 15 days?
December.
So, first off, how many days are in November?
30.
30, that's key. But how many days are we counting in November? 2. November.
Oh, November. I
Right.
was thinking of.
So how many days do we have left?
December 13th?
December 13th should have been your answer.
13.
See that? All right, now do the next one.
Oh, it's old crepes already.
That
So
was
now we got 30. So the biggest thing you got to figure out is how many days did I use in the previous one, really, and then you can really do it, right? So you don't use that first date, and then there's 30 days, so there's 2, and then we had 30 more days, so what's my last day?
Shoots.
What's 30 minus 2?
30 minus 2 is 28.
So what's my last date?
28.
December 28th.
I almost said the 29th.
Okay? Now, some of that you could run into problems, obviously. What happens in that period of time? We got Christmas. Most places aren't probably going to be open. Maybe even not on Christmas or Christmas Eve, but maybe they are. All right? There you go. Right? So you might, that might get adjusted, but I would say that they would have that somewhere on your invoice. Okay? Allowed, 2 more days or whatever because of the holiday or Thanksgiving or whatever it happens. All right? So here we go. Next one. Letter B. Here we go, Johnson.
Oh, jeez.
March 20th is my invoice date. So how many days are in March?
31.
Okay? So how many days am I counting in March?
You're counting 11
Okay?
days in March.
Now we wanted to have 15 though.
So you gotta add 4 more to that 11, so it'd be April 4th.
April 4th. Now, baby. All right.
You're learning.
So we'll skip the next one because you can basically use the same math. Now you got to do 45.
Oh, jeez, no, come on.
So now you got to think about 2 months, right? Well, unless you can remember what you said for the April one. Then how many are in May? How many days in May? 31?
Why do we need to know that?
Wait. Oh, sorry. April. Yeah, May. Oh, no. We needed to know March, April, and May. Sorry. March, April. We don't know. We don't need to know May. You're right. So we had April. How many did we use in April?
30.
But how many did we use?
4.
You used them.
Oh, for the first one's 4, so 26. Yeah. That's what you're saying.
It's the final answer May 4th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I do is, January, March, you add up the numbers between here, and then you just subtract it from the.
It would be the
45.
19th.
You can do that too.
No.
The what?
No.
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 It's April 19th. But we're doing the last one.
Just give me, I gotta process.
Yeah, we're doing the 45, not the 30.
Did you do the 130 or did you do the N45?
I just know it's May 4th.
I just add them up, subtract.
You add them up, oh, and then subtract 45.
I honestly can't explain how I do it. I don't know how it works. Just,
Miss Sitzman, are you okay here?
I just count the days we can go.
Well, that's fine too. Did you get it there, big boy?
or-
So how many days, okay, so think about this. How many days did I have from March to the end of, or till April?
15.
No, March to
11.
April.
11.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, how many days are in April?
is that 130?
Yeah.
Okay, so you use 30 plus 11,
So we're at 41.
41, and we have to get to what?
45,
We
yeah.
have to get to 45. Okay?
I like to see the calendar.
Okay? Maybe it's easier if you do Yazway. Tell them again what you did.
Okay, so,
So listen to this.
there's 11 days until May,
Yeah.
and then there's 30 days in April, so you just add them up, and then you subtract it from the 45, and you have 4 days left.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we did at the end there. All right? So now we're going to try to figure out how much cash discount we get. All right? So how do I know? Remember, to figure out my cash discount, I'd have to know what my rate is. So basically your rate is either in letter B, it would have been either 3% or 1%. So when I do that as a rate again, remember I have to move it where? 2 places to the left. So it would have been 0.03 times the grand total or 0.01 times the grand total, okay? So, letter C. Find the cash discount and the cash price. So what's the cash price? The cash price is what you're actually going to owe. Okay? Of a $23,747 invoice, if the invoice is paid within the first discount period, the credit terms are 4/5, 1/30, and N60. So they tell you what it is. Sometimes they're just going to give you the date and you have to figure out, like in the next one. But this one should be relatively easy, right? So we're going to take 23,747, whoops, that's a bad 7, times what?
0.04.
0.04. Everybody okay with that? And see where you got that? Yes? No? Okay? So what'd you get?
$949.88.
$949 and what'd you say?
88.
Thank you. So what is this again?
Your discount.
Discount.
This is my cash discount, right? So this is the cash discount, and how do I find my cash price?
You subtract it from the original price.
So I'm gonna take these two numbers right there and subtract them. And that's gonna be my cash price. Okay? Everybody got that one? Everybody get the answer? $22,797.12.
Yep.
Okay, now I want you to try D by yourself. So this is where you gotta do some calculating, okay? So D says an invoice dated July 28th totals $12,836. Credit terms are 215, 130, or N45. If the invoice totals paid on August 13th, what are the cash discount and cash price? So first off, you have to decide, do they get a cash discount or not? Are they in one of those categories? That's what you're asking yourself. And then if they are, you can do your math. Obviously then, if they're not in one of those, your cash price is just whatever you owed, as long as they made it within, in this case, 45 days. What?
Did they make they didn't make it?
No, they made
Yeah,
it.
they did.
Did
Not
they?
for-
Here, if I can figure it out, you can figure it out.
Not for the first one. but-
Okay, so July 28th to August 13th, how many days in between July 28th and August 13th?
16.
16.
Everybody agree with that? Because I'm doing 29, 30, and 31, right? So I'm taking 3 plus 13 is 16. So obviously we missed the
Oh,
first
shoot.
one,
I got it.
okay? We missed the first one, so we're in 130, right?
Yep.
So we're gonna take what?
The total times 0.01.
12,836 times 0.01. So some people look at this and say, well, I'm only getting $128.36 off. That's a big deal, right? In business, okay? All right, questions though? Did everybody get that and understand why? All right. The next part then, so that would be trying to figure out your cash discount. The next part is a trade discount. So a trade discount would be more like, maybe you got a rebate, maybe you got, Johnson's been ordering from YA for 35 years, and his dad and grandpa had been for years and years before that. So he's a very loyal customer. YA would give him a trade discount. Okay? Carson just started with him. He probably doesn't get anything from YA right away. Okay? Lammers, he's been there for 15 years. These guys have been there for 75 years. Their trade discount's gonna be a lot bigger than Lammers is. That makes sense? So it's kind of like a bonus for being loyal to that company. Now, they might only give you a trade discount on certain items. So like, if we go back to the restaurant business that I was in, maybe we only get, a trade discount on cheese, for instance, I don't know. We're just picking one of the items, and so you would pay a regular price for everything, but you'd get some kind of discount for a specific item, okay? That makes sense with everything? So basically, you just have to figure out what it is, and then do your math, okay? So, look at letter E. The list price of a gas grill is $249. Everybody okay with what that means? Okay? With a 35% trade discount to retailers. What trade discount would a retailer get on the grill? So all I'm gonna do is what here?
249 times 0.35.
0.35. Now, what do they mean by retailers in this situation?
Like your,
Walmart.
like who sells it?
Okay, so this would be what I, again, would say the small guy from my supplier, right? So if we figure out the trade discount, they're gonna give us, if you do the math, they're gonna give us $87.15, right? And so that means then, it says what invoice price would we pay? So we would take that amount and subtract it from the $249, right? That's what we're gonna pay whoever Walmart's supplier is. That make sense? Now what's Walmart gonna charge?
They're gonna charge the regular retail price.
Probably at least the regular, if not a little more, right? Or other, companies. It's not just Walmart, but they might get a trade discount, but they're probably not going to give that to everybody else. Maybe they give it to, maybe they say, well, we'll give half of what we got. So then at least they're making, a pretty good chunk of change, but they're probably gonna go back to the full price, okay? Basically F is pretty much the same thing, right? Yeah. Don't get confused when they say 37.5%.
You just move the decimal over.
Yeah, so it's 37.5%, but then when I move it 2 places to the left, I would have 0.375. Okay? Everybody go there? All right, so then the last thing they're asking, instead of knowing everything, now they're going to, or basically not knowing everything, you know everything, and they're gonna ask you, hey, what rate of discount did you get? So again, anytime that they're asking you for a rate of discount, my answer should be a what? Decimal, which turns into a percent, right? So if I do a decimal, what number's gotta be where? The bottom number is going to be bigger than the top number. Okay, so always think about that. All right, so notice here in the black, it says rate of cash discount is your cash discount divided by your invoice price. The rate of the trade discount is the trade discount divided by the list price. So you're finding out what your amount of discount is and then dividing it by the original price. And that's going to tell you your rate of discount. So go over to G. An invoice totaling $5,200 was paid within the discount period. The amount paid was $5,070. What was the rate of the cash discount? So what's the first thing I have to do in this problem?
Figure out how much they got off.
Yeah, so I got to take those two numbers that they give me in the problem and what?
Then you divide.
But I'm going to subtract those two numbers
Yeah.
first. So I'm going to take 5,200 minus 5,070. Again, that's my amount of cash discount. Now, here's the important part. What do I divide by?
The list price.
The 5,200 or the 5,070? The 5,200. Always basically go back to the bigger number. So I'm going to take my $130 and divide it by $5,200. That make sense?
2.5.
So you get 2.5%, exactly right. Okay? So in letter H, they say a swimsuit with a list price of $75 was sold to a retailer for $41. What was their trade discount? It says what was the amount and rate of the trade discount. So you got to make sure that you read the question and answer the question for what is being asked. So this one, again, I'm still going to subtract the two, but that is one of my answers, right? The $33.75. And then I take that and divide it by what number? 75. Okay? So, don't freak out here.
45%, man. It's a pretty good deal.
Is this due tomorrow?
Shabby.
Hold on one second, I'll get into it. After we, alright. Hit it.